Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome to your Radio Opening Wars. This is the show with your brother Abu Musa, and we're going live this evening, and we have an interesting show for you today, inshallah. For those of you that are following me on social media, this is also live on my Facebook feed, and today, inshallah, we have two special guests with me that are going to talk about the issue of mental health and amongst the Muslim community, about the Asian community in general. We've got brother Naushad here and brother Tafazzal. Both of them have come from various backgrounds and have some very unique perspective on the whole situation. We're also talking about other matters around the community and some of the issues that South Asians don't want to address this issue because sometimes it can be seen as a taboo issue. So I'm going to introduce my guests right now. Assalamu alaikum, brother Tafazzal and brother Naushad. Would you like to introduce yourselves and just give me a quick brief about yourselves? Just give me a quick brief about yourselves, about your background, and we'll take it from there, inshallah. Right.
Yeah, wa alaikum assalam. My name is Naushad, and I'm born and raised in Sheffield, in Yorkshire. I'm from Leeds at the moment. My family moved in 1990, so I'm 48. My background is media, education, and also we're here to talk about mental health. So that's been a bit of a journey for me, but we'll share that as the time goes on.
Of course. So, Brother Tafazzal, would you like to introduce yourself?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Yes, my name's Tafazzal. I'm 60 years old, to follow what Naushad was.
No way, 60 years old.
MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah.
Father, grandfather. MashaAllah, I have a very... a lot of experience in this field. I actually work with Muslim men in particular around mental health, emotional health, and support them even with their relationships, their marriage. Living currently in Bradford, alhamdulillah, and really happy to be here tonight.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, usually, brothers and sisters, for the listeners out there, my show normally runs on a Sunday, but today we thought it was due to sort of put on an alternative night because of the nature of the sort of show, and we felt it was really important to address a different crowd as well. And alhamdulillah, tonight we've got these two brothers here, and we're going to spend a good hour at least discussing this issue. So just to kick off things, I want to quickly, I know I've got a script of questions here for you, Naushad, and Tafazzal yourself as well. You've mentioned, obviously, you've spoken a bit about your background and what have you. Now, Naushad, you mentioned that you've written a book. Before I get to the book, I just want to ask you a couple of questions before we get there. So, men living in the West face many issues from changing roles of South Asian females. And you get. I think the generation now that we're living in, a lot more women are independent. There's a different attitude towards men now. Men feel maybe sometimes a bit inferior to some of the women. So some men even feel lost and have no purpose in life. What are your thoughts on this, and how can we tackle this in our community? So you find a lot of young men are disenchanted sometimes. They don't feel that they've got a sense of purpose, of belonging, because sometimes there's a change of culture, change of trends from maybe our fathers and grandfathers' generation when they came here. There was a particular structure in the households. Today, things are changing. I think women have become more liberal, more feminist, kind of like inclined that way. What are your thoughts on that? And the question, what are your thoughts on this, and how can we tackle this in our communities?
Oh my God, that's a massive question.
Feel free to chip in.
It's kind of slightly off on the mental health side, but it leads to mental health. But look, everyone has their own opinion, and my late father always used to say, look, right, if you go back to the basics of the culture you come from and the religion, especially the religion we belong to in Islam, not overriding the other religion, is that, look, safar and ziyarah is always good. Traveling, educating yourself. You have one side where we're all going to universities and obtaining our diplomas and degrees and everything. But there's another side where my father used to say, look, you go into university. I studied in London, and he said something quite profound. He said, look, you're gonna go study there, but remember, diploma, degrees is not a substitute for common sense or sense of humour, and that's done by travelling. You've got to educate yourself, because it's emphasised in our religion, especially in our culture. Not so much, because they were very closed in that respect on many things, but obviously everyone's got their opinion on this, and I respect that. But my disclaimer is, this is my experience. Luckily, fortunately, he had 3 daughters, my father, so I've got 3 sisters, no brother, so I learnt a lot growing up.
Very
strong women, strong-minded women, and my nickname then became, I'm a Cinderfella instead of Cinderella. So my dad said, look, this is a point where now you finished your college, you're going to go to university, and he actually made me go through clearance. He says, because I used to be very quiet. I used to be like, I had a tash, glasses, side point. I used to not talk. He says, you need to really get out there.
Right.
And so he made me wear contact lenses, shave my tash off. I had a full physical transformation. And he says, go to London and learn what life is. And he brought us up in a very, very, very kind of encouraging way, both religiously, spiritually, emotionally. He was ahead of his time. My late father. I'm not saying it because he was my father. His own reputation precedes, and he's fortunately even though we're from Sheffield, he was a BBC broadcaster for Sheffield for a while, and a financial advisor, and he had a lot of the businesses here, from the restaurants to warehouses. They were all his friends and clients, and Bradford and Manchester were his second home, even though we moved to Leeds, but he's buried here in Schoolmoor in Bradford. So that says it all, doesn't it, really? So that's where he's ended.
Good, Fazul. Any thoughts on that?
What was the question?
I think for me, I guess you could say that there is a correlation to mental health here. I mean, the question was about the changing kind of dynamics within our households and our communities. I think women in the past, for maybe our mother's generation, they had the home kind of looked after the home, etc. The fathers went out and worked. Now we see a different culture, different trend of women going out there working. Some women are very independent. They don't have much dependency on men. So there's been a big culture shift, and some men feel a little bit out of touch. Like, what's my place? What's my position here?
You mean they're emasculated in some ways?
Yeah, absolutely. It's well put together there, Fazul. What are your thoughts on this, and how can we tackle this? I mean, is it something we need to tackle, or is it something we just let carry on as it is?
Well, times change, and so do we have to change. So the modern day presents its own issues and challenges that really need us to butt heads together and talk, both men and women, to talk about the new scenario, as it were. So for me, I think if a man is feeling emasculated or feeling less than, the question I have for him is, well, what is really underneath that? Is it that you can't be a provider anymore? Is that what you feel? Do you feel like you can't provide safety to the women in your home? Is it security? So when I do my work with men, it's all about helping them to understand what their core values are, because underneath every single fear or self-sabotaging belief is a dream or a wish or an aspiration that has either been dismissed or ignored. So really it's looking beneath the surface. What is really bothering me about this, about our sisters going out to work? What is really not comfortable, when it concerns the way I've been brought up, about the new scenario where our sisters are going to university, have great jobs, and sometimes they have jobs that are paying more than the men, so they clearly feel uncomfortable. So what is it about that really makes me a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit edgy? So it's not black and white. It's not right or wrong. I think every single scenario has its own merit. It needs to be studied. We need to really be, when we talked about this earlier on, be introspective. What is it within me that's being brought up to the surface, and that emotion that's surfacing, why is it there? Because I always say that emotions are messengers.
Just to add on to that,
let's open the floor here.
Again, the experiences like with my older sister, when she's...
So where do you sit in the family? I mean,
I'm second eldest.
Okay.
So and she's obviously 2 years older than me. I won't say how old she is. But the thing with her is she was the first person in the family to go to university, and the fact that she was a girl, my dad did get a lot of stigma and stereotype, and a lot of Qayyum Sahib, do you know what you're really doing, and so on and so forth. And my dad just said, look, do you know what? Again, I think we need to educate ourselves, because we're restricting ourselves. And actually, when we compare the culture to what the religion says, or just generally when you are part of a religion, it's two different things. We need to differentiate it. And he says culturally it may not suit, but at the end of the day, Islamically, there's nothing stopping somebody getting educated. Education is emphasized very, very well. But what we did as a family, we sat down and we spoke of any of the reservations, the concerns, expectations. Look, I'm sending you to university, you may get this, you may get that, you know, we're going through a lot, we've sacrificed a lot, so we really, because we're from a different generation as well. I'm 48, she's 50, the younger two sisters are 15 years younger, so they're different generations, so we're kind of the last of the Mohicans and that, no disrespect to the Gen Z. But the thing is if it wasn't for my dad's influence and actually giving us some boundaries, set boundaries, and she studied at home anyway, she didn't want to go away, studied at home, lived at home anyway, that was another kind of safety net for my dad. Okay, fine, you know, if you want to go to a different city, you can, but these are going to be the do's and don'ts, pros and cons. So she decided with the advice, and I think that's what a lot of the families need to do on whatever topic it is. You know, we need to sit down and create a dialogue, and I think people from outside shouldn't be involved in this. As long as, I always used to say, if my dad and my mum support me, I don't care what the world says, because I'm not going to do anything wrong, and these are my parents, and these are the first people we listen to. You know, as interaction, biological parents, and or whatever, you know, the relationship. So the fact that he included me in it, I felt so good, because she felt acknowledged, she felt that she was heard, she felt protected and safe, that if tomorrow anything happens, I've got my brother and my father to protect me. But she could also protect herself. That's the whole point. Education is something that shouldn't be limited.
No, shouldn't. Good point. It's a good point. No,
can I pick up on something what you said as well?
Yeah, of course.
The word that you used, the most powerful word there was dialogue.
Yeah.
So I always say that there's a difference between a conversation and a dialogue. A conversation is, let's open up what's happening. What's happening is, you know, I'm bothered about so-so going out of work and earning more than me and so forth. But the dialogue is, why does that bother me? And that dialogue means that I have to talk to you and listen to you and understand it from your point of view, rather than making assumptions or prejudging, you know, what I feel someone else is saying. So it's about, I listen to understand you, not to judge you or to even have a go at you, because now I have some ammunition. So really important for us men, especially men, because it's about mental health, is to not jump to any conclusions and to go more than the what, the conversation, and go into dialogue, because in dialogue you then begin to understand the deep layers, the dreams. What dreams does this person have? What is it, that person's aspiration? You know, what are the wishes that they have about life? Because I may have a different lens through which I look about about life, right? I might see life in a different way to them, but if they're an important person in my life and if I really love them, I want to understand their drivers. And I think once we understand drivers, we begin to understand what makes people tick. Conversely, why are men going through so much in terms of their stresses, you know, pressure, being the provider, the protector, the nurturer of our children? There's so much, there's so many identity labels. When we begin to ask men, why does that become a burden for you? Why is that something that's really, you know, heavy for you? Why is that something that's bothering you? Then we begin to understand it from the man's point of view.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. It's a very good point. I mean, you have a very unique perspective on those things. I understand that. I'm going to go to the next question here. Just by the way, if there's anything coming on the socials, if anyone making any comments or any questions that they may have, please feel free to throw them our way and let the brothers here answer any of those questions, inshallah. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. My following question: what are your thoughts on the Muslim community in relation to how we view the issue of mental health, and what should our community be doing proactively to address this? How can we utilize the resources we have in the community, and are they being underutilized? You know, we have the masajids, we have community kind of like, you know, leaders, we have imams, we have many people that represent our communities, and sometimes I feel maybe the issue around mental health is being brushed under the carpet. It's not being addressed. It's not being brought to the surface. I mean, obviously in your experiences, both of you, please feel free to comment on this. What are your thoughts on that? Do you want to ask the question again? Or?
No. Well, speaking from experience, that's how I learned, because to be honest, sadly 7 years ago I got married, and my father died on the stage in my arms on the day of the wedding, and you know, he was very much of a presence. You know, his background was, you know, and you know, when he collapsed, it was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life and his life, and he finally, like at the age 41, he finally decided to get married. I said yeah, and then he's like, okay, So I was living in Dubai then, and then when, cut the long story short, when we were coming over to, and we booked the wedding hall, it was in Manchester, and it was very surreal because I could see the change in him from leaving home from Leeds to getting to Manchester, because obviously I think he knew that something was going to happen. Not to delve into it Islamically too much, because we're kind of told when our time is up at some point. I'm not an expert on that, but he was saying a lot of things that kind of now reflecting back on it, when he started the speech, within 2 minutes he collapsed, the mic dropped and he collapsed, and they were just resuscitating him for 40 minutes. I was sitting on my chair, sat back down, and I didn't get up for 40 minutes, and actually he died before the nikah, and it was so surreal. While his body's being taken away, I'm saying Kabul, Kabul, Kabul. I'm like, what's going on here? It's like there were 500 people there, so they just had to do what they had to do. That was their decision. If it was up to me, I would have postponed the wedding or maybe cancelled it.
Well, I mean, you don't mind me asking.
No.
Now you've raised that. I mean, what goes through your mind when you're sat there? You're getting married, and your father, is passing away right in front of your eyes. I mean, I can't begin to imagine what you were going through.
Well, just to, like I said, I didn't know what I was going through. That's the thing, when somebody says, I feel numb, that when you feel numb, that means you're overwhelmed with feelings, but we don't know how to express it. So I was sat there, luckily my wife, then she didn't see it, she was downstairs, so she was supposed to come upstairs after the speech, had finished, and it's like, she's down there, she's down saying, what's going on, and she started praying. But anyway, to cut the long story short again, because it was a chaos. Soon as the nikah was done, we went straight to the MRI, Manchester Royal Infirmary, and luckily they actually had a backspace where he's he was laying there on a steel cold plate. It was cold, lying on a 6'4", lying on a cold plate. And I'm just thinking, Dad, about an hour and a half ago, you're red-blooded hot. We were talking. I've even got the video of us together, having a laugh. And then now, where have you gone? You've left me. What have you done? We were supposed to finish the wedding. So for her barat was left from hospital.
Yeah,
but within that, unfortunately, you're trying to. I think the stigma stereotype kicked in where I had to be a good son because my sister was getting married and I had to give her away, and that was very tough because I've only been to one wedding since then, and I've tried to now slowly go back to funerals. So because it was such a shock with what happened to me. So like in 1 year, I had wedding, death, and divorce, and sometimes it takes a lifetime for people to deal with it, or to even admit it, or to even prepare it. And I had everything thrown at me. Oh, are you going to be the good son? Or are you going to be the good husband? Or are you going to be the good brother? I mean, and so we then decided, we went for Umrah, we had a closure and said, look, it's best if we go our own way so we can grieve properly, because this is affecting you and it's affecting me. And after a year, I actually started grieving for my dad after a year after the divorce. It was somewhat...
You divorced at the time as well?
Yeah.
From the sister that you married.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. So it was wedding, death, divorce, and the sisters that are listening out there, some plan years ahead, like how our wedding's going to be, and mine was just done in one shot. Got engaged within a month. We're flying over, getting married, and then done, and like, what's going on here? Then my mum sadly had cancer, so I had to deal with a lot. But that's the expectation, the stigma. Like, okay, you're 6'2", why are you crying for? Everyone's lost everyone. But I said, okay, fine. They wouldn't until they know this. They lost somebody. It's a sudden death. He didn't have any heart condition. It was just a sudden death, and that was a sheer shock. He was 64, and it's not. And the lucky thing was, a lot of the guys that were there at the wedding, they were going through the mental health, and a lot of them, it's taken years to get over that I'm his son. So there was a little focus group that we created that we used to speak to on WhatsApp. Unfortunately, to be honest, I'm going to be raw about this. The women are slowly getting to know what it's like for men's mental health. I'll tell you the figures. Calms, I don't know if you've heard of them, which is Campaign for Living Miserably. They've said that, and I hope it doesn't trigger anybody that's listening, but it's facts that 125 people last time, I think 2021-22, 125 people commit suicide a week in this country, from which 80% are men. That's like a football team a day. In America, USA, it's 103 a day. The stats are there, so there has to be a common denominator why this is going on. I mean, I did go through like like again, when I was getting the stigmatized from everybody from like you never cared about your dad, or you didn't do this, or you've got to be responsible, you shouldn't have had a divorce, you've got to be a good son to your mum. I think to myself, I talk to my mum every day. She's all right. I actually had to start taking my mum and my sister to certain therapy classes, because the professional, okay, you can do your salah and your dhikr, and but you have to have a space where we can talk. We don't realise that we don't want to talk about this. We just kind of like, what does resonate with you? What is it that you want to? They just build it. And I've seen it in my cousins and my friends. After many years, they start heavily smoking, or doing certain other addictions. This has to stop. We have to admit that it doesn't matter which community we come from. Whatever we follow, health comes first, self-gratitude comes first, because if I'm not strong, you're not strong. Tafba is not strong, we're not going to be strong for our friends or family. And that's what my father taught me. The inner circle child, which I want you to expand on.
So, sorry, before you come on, just very quickly, is there a comment on there, a question on socials?
The question: how do we encourage Muslim men to access and engage with the different platforms available to them?
Maybe we can answer that question as well.
Yeah, sure.
I'll let you speak, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a profound story there that is very complex and multi-layered. A man on his, like you said, Naushad, best day of your life also became the day when you lost your dear father. And what I got from that, experience is this, that no one actually looked to you and asked you how you were, but instead, you're supposed to be strong and hold it all up. In fact, let's continue this ceremony and let's get on with this real experience that you had. Your mentor, your father, your guide, someone who you looked up to, because you speak about him in an endearing way, but who was there for you? So the elephant in the room for me is silence. Silence in our community about men and what they have to endure, right? The pressures, the responsibilities, the expectations, the labels that they have, all these identities they have, the father, the son, the husband, the provider, the colleague, and many others. So why is there such a silence in our community about what men go through? And subhanAllah, the stats on men committing suicide. Now, that's disastrous. It's shocking.
Can I ask you a question on that point there? I mean, obviously, the statistics are very evident of what's going on in our communities.
This, just to say, this is my experience, and the disclaimer is that not everybody's going to feel the same way. So this is my experience that I'm sharing. It may not resonate with everybody, but it may, it may help others.
Yeah. Sorry, Chap. I was going to just ask a follow-on question from there. Do you think we are lacking something? And when I say lacking, I don't mean in a disrespectful way. I mean, when we are cultured as men, I guess, the deen of Islam, it's very profound in its own way. We know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that He does not burden a soul more than a soul can manage and deal with. And we know from the trials and the tribulations of the Prophet ﷺ and all of the prophets before him that these men, they faced very severe hardship and difficulties. And what is it now that we're missing in our lives that are leading us down this dark path that we can't manage?
So I'll tell you what it is. So even those men faced trials and tribulations, but they were able to express themselves. And I'll give you two very strong examples. And we as men, modern day men, quote unquote, right, tend to think that that's a weakness. So the Prophet ﷺ comes down from Hari Hira Mount, the mountain of light, with the first revelation. He greets, or his wife greets him. And what is the first thing he says? He says, Zambiluni, Zambilu, cover me, cover me. Now what is he saying? He's saying, I want your protection, right? Comfort. I'm needing comfort. I am now feeling this, what's going on? So he seeks comfort, vulnerability. He seeks that comfort in his wife, and she covers him.
I mean, it's beautifully said. I mean, that obviously refers back to the ayah in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we have created companions for you as garments.
Yes.
And garments as a metaphor can mean many things. As in wrapping you up, keeping you warm, protecting you. So
second thing,
sorry,
he loses his son Ibrahim alayhi salam. What does he say? He says, the eyes shed tears and the heart aches, but we will not do anything that displeases our Lord.
Absolutely.
The eyes shed tears. The greatest of mankind, right, is shedding tears and saying, my heart is aching. Right? And we have this wonderful story of the father of Yusuf alayhi salam when he grieves over him. What does Allah tell us about him? Out of grief, he loses his eyesight.
Yeah.
Just to interject, we were talking about the Surah Doha, the
Doha.
story behind that.
Yeah.
What was the story behind Surah Doha?
وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. Your Lord has not forsaken you. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is thinking about his Lord forsaking him, thinking, right? And what does Allah say? No, I haven't forsaken you. Your attachment is still strong.
But coming back to when there was no communication, was it right, for 6 months?
Six months, yes,
So the
absolutely.
story behind the Surah Doha, for any of the listeners,
I think there was no communication for a couple of years.
Right.
When the revelation, after the first revelation came, if I'm correct.
Okay, I think there's a difference of opinion, but you're right, it was a long time where he felt that he was abandoned, right? So, we sometimes ruminate, we sometimes have ideation, and I'm telling you, Abu Musa, that I work with lots of Muslim men.
What do you find in your experiences?
Some of those have suicidal ideation, right? I'm not just saying that just because it sounds good or sounds bad. I'm saying it how it is. A lot of men are feeling the pressure of life, the pressure of responsibility all on their shoulders. They don't feel like they have anywhere they can go, because when they go somewhere they'll be, stigmatized. Man up, right? Just get over it.
oh, men don't cry.
No, men don't cry, absolutely, yeah. Men don't cry. Yeah, the best of creation is...
Interesting. Sorry, I'll just make a quick quote from Umar radiallahu anhu when he said to one of his sahabas, one of his friends, that share with me why you're happy so I can laugh with you, but also share with me why you're down and upset so I can cry with you.
Brilliant.
So we know from the greatest men that came after the Prophet ﷺ that they expressed themselves emotionally. And why is it you feel that our community is not opening up that channel and allowing men to kind of express that emotion? I mean, I recall times with my father where I've had conversations with him, and very rarely does my father get emotional, but on certain occasions he has got emotional with me over certain things, and it takes a lot for a man to get to that stage. I understand, like you say, there's a Punjabi saying, I'm not going to quote it, but like you said, men don't cry. Men are strong. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that whole kind of idea is always bearing upon us.
The word that they use, remember Rocky 3, he was stoic meaning that, right, there was just like
no
looking at him,
yeah.
it's like it was zombie.
Yeah.
He was hollow, there was no feeling, there was just like looking at you. And that's why when you watch the Rocky movie, it's not about boxing, it's about the resilience and how he got through losing all his close ones. That's the reason why a lot of those type of movies are very inspirational.
That resonates with you, I guess.
But not to come back to the brother's question of the recovery, of how I'm going to say it from experience. That's one of the reasons why I've written a book, one of my first books, Alive Today. I might be overstepping on this. I don't know.
No, of course,
because look, since I was young, my dad's always taught us to be very open and expressive. So it was somewhat easy for me. Where you go to a therapist now, or maybe to an imam, and they say, okay, work on your inner child yourself. My dad was talking about that when I was 12. In the 80s, so it was unheard of then, and that was because he was actually going through it himself, because he went through a lot himself. He lost his mum, his sister when he was young, so he actually did get a lot of help when he was younger, and that's what he then brought home. And there would be much debate on it with my mum and my dad, like science versus the religion and everything, and then slowly they learnt together, and they mashed up, because in those days it was very, very kind of taboo. But one thing that I did do was, and sadly I lost some friends to suicide. 4 or 5 of them. They were from different religions, from Muslims to Sikhs to Christians, and and the religion is something that we obviously, I'm going to admit, I attempted twice myself. And
that's why the book's called Alive Today.
Yeah. So so basically, when I wrote the book, the one thing that to answer the question was, apart from seeking professional help and getting diagnosed, it's very important that you start writing a journal. write your feelings down, get a pen and paper, even if whatever it is you want to listen to a nasheed or watch a movie that resonates, anything that'll help you to
home.
Exactly. No easy way out. And the thing is that when I actually finished my journal, I felt so good about it, but then I got stuck. I said, I don't have a purpose in life anymore.
I've got a confession to make. Naushad. I do write a journal.
That's good.
I do make notes of things.
That's good. It's like poetry, isn't it?
I think it's an individual thing. Some people like to express in words, or some people like to do the writing side. Some people like to talk. Some people like
exactly.
I think
exactly.
Everyone's got their own little outlet.
But a journal is a key. That's one thing that I don't like writing. I actually prefer reading poetry and things like that. And I got into it slowly because I actually wrote a letter to my dad, a therapist, when I was diagnosed with PTSD. I went apart from doing my ruqya, salah, dhikr, and trying to continue that. And no one's perfect. We've got all our own journey. We're all on our journey, but I'll seek professional help. I had hypnotherapy, hypnosis, which actually blocked the day that I kept on having nightmares of seeing my dad, his face when he was having this massive heart attack, which he had for the first time. Again, sudden death, no history of a heart condition. So they did hypnosis, which was pretty good. It helped temporarily. Then we had the CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. I even actually went for a frequency microcurrent, which is something which is a new thing, which is amazing, which releases emotions from your body. Because when you're tense, there's so many things that I can actually say, but oh no, we don't have much time. So I tried everything possible. I didn't leave any stone unturned. But writing the book for someone, so a reader will say, buy a book. It's on Amazon, Waterstones, and they can read the book. It's a very short book, 7,500 words, and it's how I was able to get out from the victim martyr, or what happened, the process of getting back to reality, connecting with the world again. And then I've added a journal at the back. So the idea was this is how brother Taf and I actually bonded, and he helped me. He was very instrumental in creating this journal at the back. And what that gives the reader is an intimacy. It makes it personable, meaning, okay, I've read somebody else's story, well, they've got through it, very short read, because we don't have patience to read, unless you're reading novels or whatever, and then they have a journal at the back, and this journal, I'll let Tafbai explain how it is, and then from then on, that's one of the ways that, apart from seeking professional help as well, which, if you give me the permission, I can tell you what I did, so the brother can probably try to also.
Yeah, of course.
That,
by all means. But but before you go into
of course,
I just want to add a little question in there, that as a community, why are we failing our young Muslim men or middle-aged men, wherever they are in life? What is it we need? Why are the masajids not addressing these issues, or are they? What have you found in your experience, Tafazul?
So, what we need is to tailor what we do with men for men in how they receive support. So in other words, women speak face to face, men speak side to side. And what that means is we will have a conversation about our emotions like this across the table.
I'm quite comfortable with doing that
now. But generally speaking, right? But men will actually go on a hike or do an activity and speak about things, or play a game of football and do things. So we need to understand that it's different from men. Most men, not all men. And they can, literally do something that may just be very menial, or just go for a walk, but they can have a chat, right, about what they're feeling without them not facing another man and thinking, oh, this person is judging me.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. And I think there's a big role for community centres and mosques, masajid and other institutions to open up their spaces for men to be able to talk freely. Look, the most important thing is this: it's a taboo.
Why is it a taboo though? You said it's taboo.
Because I'm going to ask you a question. Are men emotional?
Okay, why not? I mean, emotions are created by Allah.
But are men emotional?
Of course they are.
Right. So in what way are they emotional? I'll tell you, there's two specific
things.
That
comparing emotions from a woman's perspective or from a man's perspective, we all express.
Right. So men are usually known for two emotions, right? This is very important, because when you understand this distinction, right, everything makes sense. Men are usually known for anger or lust.
My wife says to me that I'm more emotional than her, because I can sit and watch a movie and start getting tearful, and she'll just watch it and say to me, what's wrong with you?
Unless it was Rocky 3 or 4, then yeah.
Well, it was many movies.
That's the one that gets him going. But generally speaking, that's how men seem to be emotionally.
Is it because they're hiding or masking their emotions?
So men are emotional, but they're not emotional across the board.
And why is that tough? Is it because of the blueprint that's been left for them?
Because some of it is to do with they believe that actually I'm not meant to be softer. I'm not meant to be more compassionate. I'm not meant to be more vulnerable. I'm not meant to share my emotions when I'm feeling down. I'm not meant to share the stress that I've got. But, anger, even anger is a mask. So beneath anger, when I've worked with men, even young boys who are angry, they're not angry because they've got high levels of testosterone necessarily. It's something else is going beneath the surface. They want to be heard. No one's listening to them. Or they're trying to mask fear. They're even scared of someone, but they want to postulate and become angry and show anger because that's a protective mechanism.
And that's the reason why they get into addiction and all sorts.
Yeah.
So
So in the typical CBT model, it's thoughts, feelings and actions. So we think something, those thoughts will lead to some kind of an emotion, which will then lead to some kind of an action. Now, what Naushad is saying, the back of the book is doing...
Sorry, sir, just repeat that again, what you said about the cognitive behaviour.
So it's our thoughts will lead to emotions. There's no emotion without a thought, if you see it that way. There's no emotion that we'll ever have without some thought.
So
right?
no emotion without a thought.
Without thought. So thoughts lead to emotions, and emotions will lead to action. And what the journal does at the back of the book, it helps a man to process his thoughts,
to organise their feelings.
Yeah.
That's what the book did for me.
Yeah.
While you're obviously advising on the theory and the practical, actually writing a journal, organise my thoughts. Because we lose our mind if we don't know how to communicate. If we don't organise our thoughts, how are we going to communicate?
Yeah.
So we're kind of creating a barrier there already.
So as you're journaling, what's happening at the same time, simultaneously, your emotions are being processed, right? And as you're processing your emotions, what's happening, you're having a somatic release, right, all of that pent-up energy. So all of a sudden now from getting angry, you're saying, okay, it wasn't as bad. And then your actions will be different. So the key here is that if you don't process your thoughts, this is really important for the men listening out there, right? If you fit in this category, this is for you. If you don't process your thoughts about how you're feeling about life, you will be blocking your emotions and numbing your emotions, and that numbness will present itself in addictions, overeating, binging Netflix series, right? Doing things that are not really helping you. And what that is a masking, a huge masking. You're just numbing everything.
That's
it means
what I did.
you're not dealing with it. It's still there. And what I always say is this, that whatever you suppress will be expressed in different ways. It's buried alive. It's not buried dead. It's there, still living within you.
Very interesting stuff there. I just want to give my own kind of synopsis of my own thinking about these things. And I remember many years ago when I went through my own kind of issues that I did meet an elder and we sat down, we spoke, and we talk about this expression and emotion. I spent a lot of time with him, talking to him, dealing with a lot of issues, and he helped a lot with regulating my thinking and regulating my emotions. And he gave me the analogy of emotions like a horse, charged with energy, power, but he also gave me the analogy of a jockey. Why is a jockey sat on the horse? He regulates the horse, he directs the horse, and he gave that connection to the brain, our thought and our emotion. So even though our emotions can send us left, right and centre, it's the thought process that we have that regulates the emotion, and that's very critical in the way we shape our attitude and our reaction.
Well, Bruce Lee says it when he's with that student in Enter the Dragon. He says, kick me, right? And he kicks him, he goes, not anger. He says emotional content. What he meant was use that, energy that you have, but have it in a controlled way. So the jockey's controlling the emotion.
Yeah.
The emotion isn't the problem. It's how the emotion is expressed. That's the most important.
Yeah, exactly. Everything that you two have mentioned is exactly why I did what I did, and that's why I'm here today, and that's why I've made me writing the book and coming onto this show, and thank you for having us. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be very open, and I'm willing to do that on many levels. However, but by writing a journal, by doing walks and talks with my therapist, and even with TAF coach, I call him Coach TAF because he's been my mentor since day one, and also going to some talks at the masajids at home, doing some activities, away days, hiking. It distracts you but it's like a bottle of fizzy drink where if somebody says another word to trigger you, it's like they've shaken the bottle, but the lids are on there, but how are you going to release it? So there's many ways we have to release it, in the sense that it could be emotionally, mentally, and that's what I did. That's why I did. I even went to Thailand. I lost 38 kg, went to do my Muay Thai. I thought focus there, but actually I met so many people that were going through proper fighters. I came across people like Hamza from UFC. They all go there, and the thing was, common denominator is they are prisoned in their own minds. Even when they're there, they might punch the bag for an hour, and then after that, what do we do? Oh, do we go out, smoke? Do we do this, do it? With me, luckily, I'm disciplined, I'm teetotal anyway, but what I put myself into, like reading books, going to workshops, knowing more about what mental health is. That's another thing you can do in the community. We create workshops for 150 men in Leeds, for I think it was a company through Shantona, and we within Hare Hills, which is predominantly Asian community living there. So we did a I think a 2-month workshop where we had 150 men signed up. Each week 10 men, I think 20 men, and we talked about and we let them express as well, and it was really, really good. It made a massive difference.
Brilliant. Naushad, I'm just going to ask Mohammed, he's got a couple of comments coming through from social media. Mohammed, would you like to just...
So this person got a question. The disconnection to Islam is playing a negative role in the lives of Muslim men. The cultural norms appear to be dictating what isn't acceptable. When will the Imams address this vacuum and encourage men to break the cultural norms?
Brothers, feel free.
It's exactly what I was talking about, differentiating between the culture and the religion, and to be honest, we are the most beautiful religion in the world.
Of course, and what Brother Faisal says, he's absolutely right. I mean, I think there is a lot of emotional expression in Islam, but the problem is due to our...
We've restricted ourselves within the culture.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately.
There was, this thing about faith here and emotions, and it seems to be that someone's responsible. But the most important thing to understand is, I remember listening to Naman Ali Khan, and he said, sometimes we look for a spiritual solution for an emotional problem. He says, don't make that mistake. Don't make that mistake.
Need to be sort of expressed,
if they need to be expressed. So we have this very clear narrative that's narrated to us about a man in Medina at the time of the Prophet ﷺ called Abdullah, and he continuously got drunk. Probably heard this story before. And every time he would be punished, but still would keep coming back and getting drunk in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ is amongst him, right? So one of the Sahaba said, "May Allah curse you," because you know it's wrong, and the Prophet ﷺ just there, and you still. So the Prophet ﷺ rebuked this companion, and you know what he said? He said something really profound, and this is deep, because here's a man who was something that he's doing continuously despite knowing what the punishment is. So he says, leave him alone, because verily I confirm he loves Allah and he loves the Messenger, i.e. he has an addiction. And he says, do not help shaitan against your brother. So somebody could be into something really severe and at the same time have a very high level of iman.
Of course.
And this is the thing we need to understand. It's not black and white.
No, of course.
It's not about what imams can do for someone to sort things out, quote unquote. It's not as easy as that. It's very multi-layered and complex. You know, when you have, for example, men and women who maybe been through foster homes. Maybe you've had somebody who's been sexually abused. Maybe you have somebody who's been trafficked. Maybe you've had a plethora of things that someone has experienced, and for someone to say, get your salah on form and everything will be fine. Is a complete farce.
No, absolutely agree with that. Absolutely. I think for every situation there's a specific solution for it.
Absolutely.
And that's part of the stigma.
Yeah.
Well, the Prophet said, seek the cure.
Yeah.
seek the cure.
Of course.
You know, if there's something that we have as
You
an
can't
aim,
apply one rule to everything and say
No.
this is the solution for everything.
that's right.
Because everything needs its own kind of context.
Correct.
Absolutely. I'm going to move to my next question. I know you've mentioned this a few times now, Naushad, obviously the Rocky IV soundtrack. And I pick up on that one here. I love the soundtrack of Rocky IV. It's an all-time favourite album. And I've used it a lot in difficult times to steer me sometimes, to give me inspiration and motivation, just to get my head in the right space. I recall many times when I've gone through my own hard times, I would often listen to certain music to lift my spirits and get perspective. And some people might say, music's haram, etc., which is fine. I know from the book you used the line "no shortcut home" as a metaphor. Can you elaborate to the listeners what you mean by this?
No, sure.
So when I'm sure from reading the little brief that I read on the book, there was a mention of that. So maybe you use this music. Particular.
Like I said, originally, not to sound too Western, but like the original, the single, I think Robert Tepper, he sang it because he went through a marriage breakup.
Okay,
so
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he was getting divorced, but then he didn't lost the love for her. But then this then became a men's motivational through Rocky, which then Rocky actually used because he was going through his own story, his own mental health story. But no shortcut home, no easy way out, meaning that if anyone's going to get up, it's at the end of the day, like, you're the one that's doing the test. People can guide you and provide you the tools and everything, but you're the one that's doing the test. You're the one that's being tested. So therefore, there's no easy way out, shortcut home. Meaning, if you're trying to end your life thinking that it's going to end pain, it's not, because like my dad used to say, that if people think like that, because his friend unfortunately committed, shall I say, went through suicide.
That's what they say. Yeah.
I'm trying to be careful here. But he said, my dad said, was that he said it's sad that he thought that it would end his pain, but he's actually transferred that pain to others.
Else, yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So we've got to think twice. And I was so deep in the abyss that I didn't realise that I just wanted to be with my dad. I didn't want to be with anybody. Actually, I remember this no shortcut home, no way out, is I will have to do the hard graft work, which Coach Taff knows, the soul searching, the travelling, the going to the mosque, getting the advice. I can't stay and I have to go out, and it took me so much effort, even during COVID, to actually where I am today. If you saw where I was 38 kg heavier.
Wow. That's a lot of weight.
Exactly, and I lost it, and I went thousands of miles for that. I have cousins and friends that live local. Unfortunately, they're not into it, and they look at me and think, oh, you're looking well, but do you know the hard work behind it? And that the analogy was no shortcut home and no easy way to answer is it's the swan analogy. So my dad used to say that if you see a swan flowing elegantly in life, you think it's got no care in the world, but if you dip your head under the water, you see it flapping its propelling it's so hard. So a lot of people, and we all know this when it comes to us, that they don't see the hard work behind it. So therefore, that it's no way out, no easy way out, no shortcut. You've got to go through this to get where you. Otherwise, if it was shortcut, then you're not going to learn anything. You won't be able to provide. So that was the whole point of saying that. So it's a deep meaning. There's more meanings to it. I probably could paraphrase it better, but I sometimes suffer from verbal diarrhea.
You've done really well so far.
So that answers that question.
Naushad is very, very humble. I've known Naushad for about 5 years, and we've travelled together, on this journey. I have my own story, but tonight's not about that. But the thing is, I've witnessed him go from struggling, to then doing the work diligently, because we were working every single week, weren't we? And he was putting the time in, the hours in, painful moments of enlightenment, moments of, what's this all about? And it's not a linear path. We don't have a linear path to, having a better experience of life. Life is going to give you the peaks and the troughs. If anyone's going to think that they're going to suddenly find a cure and be enlightened, that's in Jannah, I think.
But just an important point from what you're saying is, if I didn't get the right help from the GP and get diagnosed with what I had, which is PTSD, and if I didn't take the help, I had a rescue plan. So once the rescue plan was there, that could take me a lifetime, but at least I had a plan. My thoughts were organised. You see, I was getting on with it. Everyone's got their own timeline. I think it's important when men get to that stage. I had friends that committed suicide and they left notes and they said, oh, nobody listened to us. They went to the police, they went to I was lucky, I was fortunate, because when I was diagnosed initially after the assessment, when the doctor refers you, you get an assessment done for 40 minutes, and they'll diagnose you what you have, and it's more than likely PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, and they then put you on a waiting list. Unfortunately, we know what's going on in the economy, not to bring too much politics into this. They put me on a 6-month waiting list just to have an appointment. Fortunately, I invested in myself. That's the other thing I would advise, is I had a income protection, and with that they passed my claim, and they paid for, while I was resting, they were paying for my therapy, they were paying for everything. It was only £20 a month, and I had 300 double therapy sessions, from hypnosis and to CBT, but I took my time. And the reason why I say that is because when my dad died, it triggered other things I hadn't dealt with in the past, which I won't go into anyway.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. So it's that basement in the Rocky that we put in the basement.
Yeah.
When Rocky's brother-in-law, what's his name again?
Paulie
says that's what when that emerges and submerges, that's when you start learning about, oh my God, this is who I am. Actually, I didn't know this about myself. You find out so many things about yourself. Think, I'm so resilient. So we don't focus on ourselves when we should do. I mean, like when I was going to some of the therapy sessions, I took one of my friends, I took one of my sisters at once, I took one, and my mum. Actually, it helped them as well. So we just slowly, so they could get a better understanding of what I was going through. But I went so deep into this martyr victim role that my grandfather, my dad's dad, he's 102, still alive.
Wow.
Sadly, my dad's 2 younger brothers died the year after. They were 48 and 64, and I was so close to them.
Yeah.
He said, I know you're going through your own journey, but I'm a father who's lost 3 older sons. What do you think I'm going through? And I had ignored him for 2 years. I didn't talk to him, thinking, that's it, I'm the only one I can't see beyond my pain. Then the penny dropped, and I started speaking to him every other day, just to learn. So that we kind of created a WhatsApp group then, and I thought, oh my God, what's going on here? I'm not the only one that's suffering. You have to get this. There's a difference between feeling lonely and being alone.
It's interesting you're saying, Naushad, because what I'm taking from that is that there has to be somebody who can communicate, somebody who has to connect the dots, because if you're going through what you're going through, it's not that there's nobody there. Sometimes we don't connect the dots together, and we kind of like, the people around us in our families that are...
But how do you do that then?
Yeah.
So meaning, sorry for interrupting.
No, it's okay.
Is that, well, okay, maybe I have one good friend that helped me. Somebody, I mean, I didn't expect my sisters or my mum to understand, because they were going through their own grief. So I kind of set my boundaries at the beginning, and I said to them, look, I need my time, and I'll approach you. And they said fine, they respected that. But communicating with Coach Taff, having a mentor, having one of the imams, he was from Libya, I think he was in Leeds. So I had a spiritual guide, and then also the therapist and the doctor and myself and Allah. So I kind of built a team around me, and because of that strong team, I got through it.
Question for you both, I don't know, whoever wants to answer, you can decide between yourselves. There's a lot of brothers that I know that have maybe childhood trauma, who may have current issues, and they continue with life as normal. They've been married, having children, what have you, and these issues are always there. They're never being addressed, and as you mentioned, Taff, they commonly kind of manifest themselves in their behaviour, but never get to the bottom of it. What advice would you give to somebody like that, who is carrying this baggage, but is not in denial, recognises that it exists, but just kind of carries on with life regardless? What advice would you give to somebody like that? What would you say they need to do? What action can they take to address some of these things?
The question I have is, why are you carrying on?
Sorry, the question was...
Why are you carrying on?
Why are you carrying on with what with?
Where they're carrying on with. So if someone knows that they have something that's unresolved, is in the basement...
Don't you think with some men they might say something and acknowledge something to somebody? Like say a wife might say to her husband, look, you need to talk to somebody, you need to go to somebody. I agree, you're right, but we'll just carry on and just continue doing what we're doing. Not that they don't recognise this, but they're just not addressing it. They don't see it as a priority.
So they're numbing. So what they're doing is they're numbing it with either work, more hours, right? Numbing it with friends that may just socialise, distractions, exactly.
Interesting.
And the thing is that, again, it's that thing of whatever you don't express is suppressed. So whether you like it or not, at some point in the future it will come out at a time when you don't expect it, and in a way that you don't want it to come out. So it could be that all of a sudden one day you lash out with anger and maybe become physical with someone, right? Or you have massive amounts of road rage. Or what happens is one day you get into a fight and you knock someone out.
And it goes too far.
It goes too far. So, you know, what is the point of you suppressing something is you're numbing it. And if you numb it for long enough, what's going to happen? One of two things. One is it's going to manifest itself in a way they don't want. Or, I tell you what really happens to some men is later in life they end up becoming lonely.
This is what I was saying to you. And I hope you don't mind me. It's being alone. Would you rather be alone or feel lonely? And when I was feeling alone, that's when my suicidal thoughts kicked in.
Yeah,
the shaitan plays with your head, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can have people around you, but still feel lonely.
Just to follow up that, sorry guys, I wanted to ask, because I mean, I guess I've kind of experienced this to some degree, and I know there's a lot of brothers out there that will be. Sometimes you find, you've, mashallah, Naushad, you mentioned your father, and your relationship with your father was excellent. There's a lot of brothers who have issues with their fathers, and they carry a lot of trauma and baggage into their adult life, getting married, having kids, not addressing that relationship with their father.
So what's going to happen? So what's going to happen is if you don't address it, it's going to continue the generational cycle of trauma.
But you get some brothers that sorry for me butting in, but you get some brothers that will put more emphasis on their relationship with their sons because they didn't have that relationship with the father, which again is it could be a positive or a negative thing because you're overcompensating because you didn't have something. So
you can.
What advice would you give them? So
balance is key. Number one is that so I had to break my generational trauma. So my father, Allah give him Jannah, he passed in 2012. He never once did he say, "Son, I love you." In fact, I remember I passed my driving test. I went to London. I went to work in London. I passed my driving test, and I was so happy. I thought, I'll give my dad a call. Right.
How old was you at the time? Sorry.
I went to London when I was 19, so about 21.
Young man.
Yeah.
Only a few years ago.
Of course.
So I called him on the phone, and I only say this to illustrate something. I called him on the phone from the old phone box. I said, "Dad, I passed my test." And he says, "Jangaya." Right, well done. And that was it. And I felt so sad that for me it was like it was momentous. It was like a phenomenal new phase of my life where I could drive. And he says, "Jangaya." And it was like, I've never been told that I love you. I can't celebrate because he doesn't celebrate. He hasn't acknowledged my efforts as a child coming from Pakistan, not knowing the alphabet at the age of 11 and going through a language school for 6 months. And then when I went to middle school, I got bullied because of that. None of that was anywhere on his radar. So there's so many things I could talk about, but what happened was at a certain time when I experienced my second divorce, that's when I had to do the work like Naushad did. And it came to a head that if I don't look into...
Sorry, Taff, just to butt in there. What prompted you to do the work? I mean, what changed in your thinking that made you made that connection and said, I've got to do this?
Well, two different marriages.
Some people carry on.
60 years, 12 years, 28 years in two different marriages, and this man is by himself again. What is going on? So I came to almost like this... what do they say? This moment in my life where crossroads.
Yeah.
Either I deal with this stuff, right? I was carry on like I am right now, but I felt like a failure. So I said, no, I'm going to do something. But it wasn't a quick. I made a decision right now. It was like dipping the toes in, out, and then I came across somebody, right? By chance. And I was working on this coaching business really early days, and I wanted to work with this person and find out how I could, coach basically. And she was a shadow worker or someone who deals with inner child work. And when I started speaking to her about, my business and stuff, she asked me a few questions, and she said, "You need something else." And I went,
she picked up on it.
What? And wallahi, brothers, and I share this openly to and everybody listening, is when she opened that door for me in understanding what trauma I went through as a child in Pakistan, everything made sense. My trauma was showing up in my first marriage. In hindsight, I looked. It was showing up in my second marriage. It was showing up in my friendships. It was showing my relation. Everywhere I could look, it was showing up, and it was in ways that I didn't even realize. So when that happened and I went through the whole process, it took me personally 8 months. And this is the same system I use with everybody I work with. It took me 8 months of solid journaling, reflecting. I used to cry in front of her because she helped me unpack things that were suppressed. And after those 8 months, I realized, wow, if this is me at 52 years of age, realizing what affected me as an 8-year-old, I wonder how many men are out there that have been suffering their whole life with all sorts of stuff. And I made it my mission from that point that I'm going to make sure that every single man who needs that help has access to me. I made it a personal mission that I'm going to be vulnerable, I'm going to speak, I'm going to open up about my sexual abuse in Pakistan, because it took I kid you not, it took me 45 years to tell my sister, who went with me to Pakistan, what had happened to me sexually in Pakistan. And she went, oh my God, why didn't you tell us? Because I couldn't tell you. I didn't have the capacity to tell you, and I thought it was my fault. But now I've done some work and I understand it wasn't my fault. I was a child. So, you know, the point here is that when I can be vulnerable, like you, when we can open the space but also importantly hold space, because I've had men tell me such things as well. I hold space for them, I listen to them, and I say, I won't judge you. I won't judge you. I can't judge you.
I think that's a key thing there you've highlighted.
And the second thing as well is really important, is that if the women in our lives are asking men to be vulnerable, when they become vulnerable, listen. Don't judge them.
This is a message to the sisters.
To sisters, yes. Because the moment you say something back to them, guess what's going to happen? They're going to shut up. Because they don't want that. They just want you to listen. So I always say, right, ask your spouse, right, when they're saying, I say it to the men normally, I say, ask your spouse when they're saying something to you, do you want me to listen or do you want me to give you advice? Because we usually give advice, don't we? They come with a problem and say, oh, do it this way, it'll be all sorted out.
What's that saying that we hear to reply or to listen or something?
That's right.
We're just listening. Okay, how am I going to respond to them? There's a saying, but we need to learn. This is what Dad used to say. We need to learn how to learn to listen and let go of that fear of like, oh, somebody's going to judge.
Some conversations that you just need to listen to, and some conversations that you
just want to be heard sometimes.
You want to be heard. Exactly. They don't want no advice. They don't want you to judge. They want you to hold space for them. Right, and if that's the case, if you want the men in your life to be open a little bit more, be a bit more emotional, a bit more romantic, right, a bit more approaching, right,
but
just listen to them sometimes.
Trust and boundary as well. Setting boundaries and the trust that you can, if they can trust. Because a lot of it then becomes a couple.
You've got to trust. You've got to trust. Absolutely.
So I see that obviously we're running out of time, guys. I just want to wrap this up now. I just want to ask you both for your final kind of thoughts on the whole subject. I mean, what is the action going forward? What advice can you give if somebody was suffering in some way and wanted to reach out? What would be the avenue to contact you? You know, what are the resources that are out there? Please share your thoughts on the matter. Okay, so to contact me, Instagram's the best probably. It's at Coach Taff, all one word. So like football coach, Coach Taff, T-A-F, only one F. But I have a card here, and it's for Mind in Bradford. Okay, so for anyone local, Mind in Bradford. So their handle is on Facebook, Mind in Bradford. I actually put it on the live as well. And on Twitter they're Mind in Bradford as well. The local number is 01274 730815 if someone's affected. Can you share that, by the way, on the social media live comments? And also I would really assert and suggest what men do is talk. Right? That's my advice. One word, talk. Doesn't matter who you talk to. Find someone you trust, but talk, and don't be shy about talking.
And in fact, I remember the first man to ever talk to me about this, and inshallah, my book comes out inshallah in April.
Oh, you're releasing a book as well now.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
It's with the editor
You
now.
have to write a book.
Yeah.
That's how we inspire one another.
Yeah. So it's a Rocky book, right? Based on the Rocky story, right?
Rocky 8.
And so I remember at work, I was having a cup of tea, and I sat down, and he just happened to make a cup of tea and sat down with me, and he asked me something simple. He says, "Taf, how are you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay, alhamdulillah." And he looked at me again and goes, "Taf, how are you?" And I swear to God, that was the door. You opened the door.
Yeah.
And we sat there 20 minutes, and I said, "Ashley, you know what? Things aren't too good. So please talk."
Yeah.
And for the men who, the listeners, please listen.
It's interesting because there are brothers out there that love to talk, and there's brothers out there that love to listen. And I think just finding that match made in heaven, that you can get that connection. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Naushad, I know obviously you've written the book, mashallah.
No.
If you want to just maybe sum up the book in some ways, and if people want to actually get hold of it, how can they get hold of it?
Yeah, it's alive today. It's a green cover book, and it's under the name of my name, Naushad, and you can get it on Amazon, Kindle, hardback, paperback. It's on Waterstones.
Maybe you can share that on the link as well.
If you just have to put it in Google, and it's on all the global platforms through a company called Story Terrace, and they came through Dragon's Den a couple of years back, and they're the ones that actually approached me and helped me to write the book. But obviously, even though my name's Naushad, I used to be a DJ, radio presenter, and my nickname as a presenter was Mr. Q. So it says RJQ or DJQ is Mr. Q. So actually, it's become a brand name now. So actually, if you go onto, I can't do the Mr. Q bingo one, obviously, because they've taken that away. So we have to spell it as MISTER, Mr. Q.co.uk, and the details are on there. And obviously, I've just launched the website this year and the social, so I've got to do a lot of work on it at the moment, because the book has been
easy for you and get success.
Thank you so much, and I hope people do benefit from this. I hope
Inshallah, inshallah. And I guess with the socials being active and live, there's always going to be people commenting on there and making, and people can see this afterwards. Obviously, you've you've introduced Brother Tafazul and Brother Naushad, so you can contact them via my socials, because they're connected. Their tags are there and the details are there. So inshallah, I hope that this show has shed some light on a very serious topic and a very important topic in our community. And if you are going through any struggles in any way, as Brother Taf has mentioned, there is the organisation called Mind. There are people around us that are good to talk to, want to help. Don't feel you're alone in this and isolated in this situation. Sometimes we need to reach out. We need to swallow our pride, swallow our egos, and just reach out to somebody. Could be your wife, could be your friend, it could be your brother, anybody, but reach out and speak to people, because it makes a world of a difference when you do. Having experienced things myself, speaking has been an excellent outlet to ease the pain and make things easy. And of course, turn to Allah and ask for Allah to give you sabr. But on that note, Jazakallah khair for listening to the show. Jazakallah khair to both of our guests that have come in, taking their time out this evening to join me on this show, special show. I hope that the listeners out there, inshallah, have gained some good from there. Please share the content that's being posted on social media. And inshallah, watch this space. Maybe we might have something in the future as a follow-up show. So Brother Abu Musa here, signing out. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.